welcome to the platform called Career Jockey. Today, I'm going to bring to you an episode on how to crack a project management interview. And with me, I have Abhinav, um, who happens to be, someone whom I've known for some time, and he recently has got a job with Boeing. Has worked with Infosys, has approximately around 6 years of end-to-end project management experience. So I would like to ask a few questions to Abhinav today. So Abhinav, why don't you tell us about your background as to what kind of, do you come from a technical background? Do you come from a project management background? How was your start?
Okay, so hi Shriram and hi everyone. So basically, Shriram, I'm a computer science graduate. So I would say that I was a techie earlier, and then after my graduation, I pursued the MBA in marketing and finance. And after that, I got placed in Infosys as a campus recruit, and from there started my professional journey. Wherein during the start of my career, I was working as an Oracle and SAP ERP consultant, and but I always had a desire to move into management stream, and that's where as part of our one-to-one session with my leadership, I had requested for those kind of a role, and eventually they had started involving me in managing small projects of the size of say 200 300K, and that's where when I started. And then after that I have got various roles, larger opportunities wherein I got to work at the client locations, played a role. So basically I started my role as a test manager, cutover manager, so pieces and chunks of an end-to-end project management. So first of all, I started with those, and then gradually learning into that, I kind of went through the entire process, all the cycles, and that's how now, I have picked up in this role, and yes, I like my job.
Fabulous. So Abhinav, why project management? Of all the roles, I mean, you have some technical background. Uh, there are so many opportunities. Why did you pick up and choose project management as such?
So, see, I had a technical experience as well. I was working earlier as an ERP consultant, but then I always had a feel that being in the consultant domain, see, everything is for all the companies, everything is a business, right? And working in one technical area was not enough for me. I always wanted to look at the bigger picture. How are things managed from a business perspective, from a business side? And that's where I think some of that thought process was driven by my MBA background, MBA degree as well. But then yes, I wanted that, I wanted that to be part of my career. So that's how I got involved into managing projects. But then Infosys being a service or service organization, again, the major projects that I have worked in were IT driven. But then now moving into Boeing, it gives me altogether different perspective, because it being at its heart an engineering company, right? And that, so it gives me an overall perspective in terms of managing IT projects, business projects from different backgrounds. So, and that is where I saw myself when I started my career, that I wanted to be with a product company, have an understanding of the end-to-end scope, how projects at a business level are being run. So that was the driving factor.
That's great. Wonderful. And I mean, it just sounds amazing about how different people think differently.
Yeah.
And I always find it very, some people are driven by what they see around themselves based on their observations. And some people probably are able to think through exactly what they want to achieve. So it's always fascinating to know different people and their perspectives. Great. So why don't you share some of your questions, some of the key questions that you were asked during interviews? I think that will be very helpful for a lot of people who will watch us today. So why don't you tell us some, probably some basic and some not so basic, and
Yeah.
some tough, some easy questions that you may have faced?
Sure. So, see, from my experience as in Boeing came across my, because I've been looking out since quite some time, and Boeing came through across my way 6 and 7 months down the line,
Mhm.
since the time that I started looking into that. So, First point, so when I actually started, I always had this in mind that whatever interview opportunity that I get, I will not reject that. Be it a smaller, because see, every person has a goal in terms of what company he or she wants to walk into. So typically what happens is, if we get a call from a startup, and if your dreams and ambitions are not aligned to that, you would end up rejecting those kind of interview calls. But what I always did was, even if the call was from a company, like from a startup or a mid-scale company or from a larger organization, I always accepted those calls. I went ahead for those calls because they help to groom an individual in terms of what is coming their way. They help us to know where you stand in the market, right? Because different domain companies will have different questions for you. You'll be thrown to different situations. Every company will have their own structure of interviews, right? So it's always good to get a market perspective and appear for the interview. So that's the first pointer that I'd like to share with everyone. And in terms of typically preparing for project management questions, see, project management is a field wherein I feel it's more subjective when you answer to any question that interviewer asks you. If you're a Java person or if you're C++ person, there is always a black and white, a one and a zero. But in project management field, you there will be questions thrown at you, uh, which are like that: what was the most challenging project that you have encountered, and how did you overcome to those challenges? So there is no right or wrong answer to that, right? It's
Right.
purely based on your experience,
Management.
right?
Sorry.
Yeah, correct. Management related question. So generally project management interviews, they are structured in a way wherein they first try to check your technical expertise. Are you aware of the basic questions, the basic project management methodology? The interviewer will try to judge you in terms of how many greenfield projects, or how many transition projects, or how many migration projects that you have done, coming from different fields, right? So since my background is majorly IT, so yes, my thoughts will be more driven into that respect. But then so having said that, so the technical aspect, when you are being judged on your technical aspects, it's always very easy for people to answer those kind of questions. But then the challenge comes in. So Boeing has this particular criteria wherein after a technical round, they it's a mandatory to have a structured round. So in a structured round, they have a panel from different domains, and they have all the real life, or all the experience based questions asked to the candidates, not only for management round, but the techies also have to go through this round mandatorily. And wherein questions like, what was the most challenging situation that you faced, how did you overcome that, or any practical situation, like say for an example, I was asked this question because since I've started into project management at an early stage. So I was basically asked that you would have a mix of team members, being people junior than you, and being people senior than you, right? So how did you manage a person who is senior than you?
Right.
How did he respond to your authority? So being a project manager, you should have uh, you should be prepared to answer these kind of questions. And the most pragmatic thing that I feel is to appear uh, for more number of interviews, because that will keep you prepared. You will not have jitters at the very last moment, because honestly, 2 3 months down the line, I was at a situation wherein I could accept an interview call and give an interview half an hour later. So the preparation, it really helps. So that's the key.
That's absolutely right. I think you pinged on the point.
Yeah.
Um, um, so can you? I mean, so what I understand from what from the two bits that I can probably gather, one, it is important for you to relate your experience in end-to-end project management by relating some of the projects that you may have worked on, by giving
Yes.
examples, real-time examples, rather than being theoretical. I mean, I've seen a lot of people preparing for interviews who want to get into project management, and they want to project that they have project management experience, and be very theoretical without understanding the fact that you got to relate with some of your experience real time.
Yeah.
So I think that is
That's true.
one key. Second is, I think, more of psychological, and about the administrative ability in terms of people management, administration management. How do you manage people, right, in terms of challenges that you may face in terms of seniors and juniors and conflicts and issues. So I guess, yeah, so that makes sense. So why don't you describe us exactly what are your roles and responsibilities as a project manager? What is a project manager's roles and responsibilities?
So, basically, again, tasting the flavors from two different industries altogether, right? Earlier I was a part of service industry and now a product industry. So the understanding of project management roles is very different. The scope itself differs a lot. So if I take an example of a typical service organization like Infosys, right? So Infosys provides services to all the companies, right? So to Infosys, whenever a statement of work comes in, so a very clear I would not say very clear, but then the project has already been initiated in a way that the business case is generally prepared, the funding for the entire project is secured, and then for any company, Infosys is a vendor. So they outsource the work, the piece of work to Infosys, and wherein the Infosys work starts, and then they deliver the project.
Right.
So basically, I would like to say that if working as a manager in Infosys, basically you are an operations manager wherein you have your piece of work and then you are driving it to completion and handing over your deliverables to the client, right? And there would be a client counterpart, a client project manager who would be managing the end-to-end piece. His responsibility would be to deal with multiple vendors, to secure the funding and many other things, right? So that is what I observed in service industry. Now coming back to the product organization, the kind of roles and the tasks that I've been tasked with. So basically, the basic challenge lies with here is the problem statement. So how do we start? How do we staff? Do we really need to staff, or can we take people from other existing units? Because unlike service companies, product companies, we cannot very easily ramp up and ramp down resources, right? So we hire when we have good visibility in terms of work. So that's the first challenge. Second challenge is securing the funding, securing the right sponsors for your project, and then comes the business case part, right? We have to create a draft a business case, and then comes the step wherein you have to find the right suppliers. You have to analyze whether this task can be done within your company or it has to be outsourced to a supplier. So yeah, so I have started getting into all these kind of activities as part of my role in at Boeing.
So when you say business case, who prepares the business case? Does a project manager prepare a business case, or is it a sponsor or someone else who's involved, or is it team who is involved in preparing the business case?
So basically, it's a joint effort. We do not have a very hard line bifurcation in terms of whether only a sponsor would draft a business case, because a project manager equally contributes in preparing the business case. So he's equally an involved entity.
Okay, great. So tell me one tough question or some tricky question where you probably really felt. I mean, it could be in any interview for that matter, where you really felt that you got like foxed and you could have given a better answer. All of us have that moment, right? So in our career,
Uh,
do you remember any of that?
yes. I do recollect. I was giving an interview for a startup, because so what I witnessed was I'm digressing a little bit, but then the bigger and larger organizations, they have a pretty structured process, and their questions, I don't know why, but they're pretty standard. That's what I would like to put it. But when you appear for interviews with the startups and the mid-scale companies, right? They do focus more on the domain knowledge and the industry expertise. So I was giving an interview for an IoT based organization, Internet of Things organization, and that company was doing work for mainly Hyderabad and Telangana government. So I was asked typical data related questions, and questions wherein I had to make certain assumptions to come at certain estimates. So they had certain questions with regards to putting their IoT related solutions in the dam reservoirs as well as in the fields, and then some numbers were thrown at me, and I had to make some reasonable estimates and assumptions, right? How would I approach for that particular problem? So that was, I would say, it was different. It was tough in a way, because yeah, I have never witnessed those kind of scenarios earlier. So yes, it was out of ordinary, and I would and it was a difficult one for me, I would say that.
Fair enough. Great. And what about when you go for an interview or you prepare for an interview? What do you do? And you kind of make a checklist of kind of questions that you can anticipate, or how do you
I
prepare?
do. I won't lie. I do have a checklist of some standard questions that I would always like to be prepared for. Because see, what I've observed over the years in the multiple interviews that I have prepared for, basic questions a person should always be prepared for. And honestly, you cannot prepare for everything, but you should not be too rehearsed for your interview. Like one always know that tell me about yourself is going to be the first question that you are going to be asked. So if someone fumbles while answering that question, it does not reflect well. But if someone asks you that what was the most challenging situation that you have faced as in your experience, then the interview does understand, if you take 5 seconds of pause while answering that, then it really reflects that you are thinking it through. You have had some past experience and you're trying to bring them back to life. So I would say that have as part of your experience. So go through your CV, study that in detail, because that's the single piece of information that the interviewer has. He or she will go through that and will ask questions out of that. So that's the basic thing one must be prepared, right? And have some standard questions prepared. And other than that, like, try to be calm 15-20 minutes before your interview. Like, don't think too much, and then everything will fall in place.
Fair enough. So I guess what you rightly said is that as far as possible to be more natural than being too artificial about kind of preparing for the interview, while
Yes.
probably having a right balance between standard questions and being natural with a lot of examples,
Yes.
thinking through a lot of experiences and a lot of examples. And I guess this is also learning for those people who probably are not able to think through, or may not have had a lot of experience, to at least consult with a lot of people who are experienced to understand exactly what they've gone through, right?
Correct.
At least from an interview point of view, they can be much better prepared, rather
Correct.
than just being theoretical about what kind of questions will I be asked, and stuff like that. So I think, yeah, that sounds appropriate. So one, maybe some of the last questions that I'd like to ask you is, what was your experience like? How long did it take for an interview to complete? How did you come up with this opportunity? Was it through a consultancy, or was it through an online portal, or was it a direct call that you received, or how did you arrive at this opportunity?
So, since I was looking out for opportunities for quite some time,
Mhm.
so I had taken some premium membership of some of the portals. But honestly, as in my suggestion to the viewers and listeners would be, it really doesn't help. As in, having premium membership also did not pay me off. So what I did was, I used to keep a lookout of. So I had some of the companies in my mind. I have registered myself in their career portals, and so this particular opportunity I got via LinkedIn. And but Naukri, Monster, LinkedIn, these are really good portals. So keep on a lookout for opportunities on these particular portals. And the important point is, in your CV, do have certain keywords. Because see, the recruiters, they do not have time to go through CVs. They will only put a search on. They use these tools. They will search for profiles with certain keywords. So for an example, if I being the project manager, right, so you should definitely have keywords such as manager or management, planning, execution, controlling, risk. So these are some of the important keywords that you should have in your CV, so that anyone who searches for it, it really helps. And if you are a certified professional, like I am a Prince 2 certified professional, so have those kind of keywords. If you're a PMP, please write that in your CV, so that really helps to filter out your
Profile
key
and resume.
searches. Yeah.
Fair enough. Great. Wonderful. And how long did it take for you to kind of, how many rounds of interviews was it? One, two, three, four? How many rounds of
So
interviews?
I think I had 3 or 4 rounds. So that's a standard process here. But most companies they do have 2 or 3 rounds. So I'd appear for a couple of companies, got through, but then the negotiation didn't fall through. So typical on an average, I would say we have our candidate has to go to 3 or 4 rounds. But for my organization, 4 rounds. Yeah.
And how long did it approximately take? Week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, four
Uh,
weeks,
uh,
5 weeks?
it was I was also surprised by the efficiency. Honestly, it just took a week's time
Wow,
from getting my first call to convert it. So yeah,
that's quite
it
professional,
was,
and
it was
that
very very
sounds
efficient. Yeah.
interesting. So great. That's
Yes.
wonderful. Great. So Abhinav, I think I won't, basically keep you waiting for too long. I guess you've shared a lot of insight about, what your experience is like, and I'm sure this is going to help a lot of viewers, a lot of people who are seeking to learn and seeking for jobs. There are a lot of job seekers, and all of us do, right? So
Yeah. Correct.
all these insights definitely do help a lot in terms of how to organize oneself, how to prepare oneself, how to make oneself more marketable. I think from that point of view, Abhinav has definitely contributed a lot today towards it, and we wish you a bright career ahead, right?
Thank you so much.
And thank you. So in case if you do you want to make yourself more marketable? Do you want to make sure that your resume or profile is more impactful? Or do you want to learn as to how to structure your career? Watch out for this space, share, subscribe, and at the same time, please do remember to comment so that I can answer more questions of yours and interview more people in the near future. Right? Thank you, Abhinav. Have a good
Thank you, Shri.